Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to look at Agentic Analytics. This pitch is about a simple but high leverage shift. Enterprise logistics and retail operations shouldn't be paying armies of consultants to manually diagnose problems that autonomous cloud infrastructure can detect, explain, and resolve in real time. Agentic Analytics, or AGA, is being built as enterprise grade infrastructure rather than simply another AI novelty product. The goal is to engineer agentic workflows directly into operational network so supply chain teams can reduce latency, protect margin, and make faster decisions with transparency. The core investment thesis is disciplined. We do not start by chasing broad publicity or taking the first capital available. The plan begins with 3 to 4 enterprise pilots, uses those pilots to validate the economics, and only then moves into a targeted $1.5 million safe round. The go-to market motion is intentionally narrow, a curated list of top accounts, intent-based outreach, and a 7-day audit that lets the product prove itself using real operational data. This is not growth at all costs. It's a staged capital and distribution strategy designed to preserve control while creating a credible path to enterprise adoption. The business problem is not that logistics and retail teams are unaware of AI. It's that they are still forced to solve fast-moving operational problems with slow human workflows. Legacy consulting firms can be very capable, but their economics are linear. The bigger problem needs bigger teams, more hours, and more cost. Meanwhile, the business disruption is happening in real time. At the other end of the market, we have cheap automation agencies that damage buyer trust with fragile integrations and hallucinating tools. AGA is positioned between these extremes. Serious enough for enterprise infrastructure, but built to remove the human hours bottleneck. This is the timing opportunity. Enterprise buyers are no longer impressed by the word AI. They want infrastructure, compliance, explainability, and concrete financial results. That creates an opening for a company that refuses to sound like a novelty AI startup. AGA's message is not, look at our model. The message is, here is the latency we removed, here is the probability score behind the action, and here is the compute cost. That is the kind of proof a VP of supply chain or COO can actually take seriously. AGA's product concept is an autonomous operations loop. It observes the logistics environment, evaluates what's happening, takes a defined action, and then explains the logic behind that action. The important distinction is that we're not building another dashboard for people just to stare at. The point is to reduce the need for manual intervention by placing an agentic state machine loop inside the operating environment. In the investor lens, this means the product has the potential to scale differently than service-heavy consulting. Once the workflow is proven, the marginal cost of execution is compute, not another team of analysts. This slide shows the product at a high level. Data flows in from the logistics or retail environment. AWS step functions orchestrate the state machine logic. Then the agent decision layer evaluates what action should be taken. The action layer can trigger a reroute, escalation, alert, or other defined operational response. The final step is explainability. The system should not behave like a black box. When a high-stakes decision is made, AGA needs to show the probability score, the data sources, and the logic trail that supported the decision. This is how the product earns enterprise trust. The economic wedge is the contrast between linear service delivery and autonomous compute. The proposal positions legacy analytics work as a human hours model. 20 data scientists in a room, billed by the hour, with costs scaling directly with complexity. AGA is built around a different curve. Once the workflow is engineered, an action can be evaluated and executed at the cost of cloud compute rather than the cost of a consulting team. That is the investor argument. The architecture itself creates a margin advantage. We still need pilots to prove the curve in real environments, but the strategy is designed around proving exactly this. AGA is not meant for small monthly retainers or low-end automation work. The target is an enterprise operator with expensive failure modes, a VP of supply chain, COO, or merchandising leader who owns logistics performance and customer impact. The emotional goal is important. We want AGA to be perceived not so much as a software tool, but more as an infrastructure. The best version of the brand is quiet, secure, and relentlessly efficient. Something the client depends on but does not have to constantly babysit. The competitive landscape has two very different threats. The first is the legacy incumbent. Large analytics firms have brand equity, and enterprise executives often feel safer hiring a known name even if the work is expensive or slow. The second threat is the swarm of low-end AI automation agencies. They don't threaten AGA directly on enterprise quality, but they poison the market by making buyers skeptical. AGA's response is to avoid the low end entirely and compete on proof, infrastructure quality, and unit economics. The brand strategy is deliberately sharp. The visual identity avoids the generic AI startup cliches: no brains, sparkles, or playful mascots. The proposed logo is a geometric state machine symbol that forms an A using deep slate and electric blue. The words should also feel technical and direct. Engineering the autonomous enterprise. This positions AGA as infrastructure. Don't hire a consultant, engineer an agent. This attacks the economic friction directly. This matters because enterprise buyers don't need more AI hype. They need confidence that the company understands systems, reliability, and cost. First, AGA must be explainable. If an agent makes a logistics decision, the system should show the probability score and the data that drove it. Second, the company should treat compliance as an early wedge, not a late-stage checkbox. A clean SOC2 posture can reduce the startup security risk objection significantly. Third, the company should prove value with a demonstration using the prospect's data. Instead of saying the architecture is cheaper, we should show the decision the agent made and the compute cost behind that decision. The go-to-market strategy is intentionally narrow. The proposal rejects the traditional inbound playbook because trying to outpublish large firms on generic AI content is it's a fairly losing game. Instead, AGA uses account-based marketing while maintaining a list of the top 100 target accounts, watching for moments of operational pain or leadership change, and engaging only when the message is relevant. That makes the outreach feel less like spam and more like a timely technical intervention. The CTA is not buy our software. It's let us prove the workflow in a 7-day audit. The first channel is outbound, but not broad outbound. The tool stack starts with LinkedIn Sales Navigator Advanced Plus as an intent mining system. The goal is to watch a defined account list and act only when a relevant trigger appears. If a target company has a public logistics disruption or a new VP of merchandising steps in, this is the opening. The outreach can then be specific. Here is the operational risk we believe you are facing. Here is the architecture that can address it. And here is a 7-day audit to prove it. This protects credibility and keeps the marketing spend lean. The second channel is technical authority. Instead of generic marketing, AGA should create detailed technical architecture briefs. These are not just shallow white papers. They should explain how a specific architecture solves a specific operational problem, such as dynamic route recovery using step functions and compute-efficient execution. This plays to the founder's advantage. The content demonstrates that AGA understands the buyer's technical environment and can speak at a deeper level rather than what a typical sales team would speak at. For an enterprise decision maker, that level of specificity creates the confidence before the first formal pitch even begins. So, the 7-day audit is the key conversion mechanism. This asks for a low-risk, sanitized slice of the prospect's data. AGA then builds a localized state machine map, shows what the agent would do, and quantifies the cost to execute the action. This is designed to reduce the friction of an enterprise sale. The buyer does not have to approve a full deployment to see the economics. They can evaluate the logic, the output, and the cost in a controlled setting. If the math is compelling, the pilot conversation becomes much, much easier. The first pillar is data acquisition and intent infrastructure. Sales Navigator, Apollo, Scrup, and HubSpot totaling $2,400 annually. The second pillar is brand authority and enterprise visibility. Canva Pro, a technical QA freelancer, and Gartner Summit Access totaling $6,431. Together, that is $8,831 of planned cash spend. The third pillar is AWS Active Credits, modeled as a $10,000 offset for hosting, storage, and compute cycles for technical pilots. The key message is that the plan isn't ad heavy, it's proof heavy. The capital strategy is bifurcated. Phase 1 is defensive bootstrapping. The company uses founder funding, strategic pilot contracts, and cloud credits to build proof while protecting equity. The reason is simple. Without verified cost, advantage, and early pilot evidence, the company negotiates from a weak standpoint. Phase 2 begins after 3 or 4 enterprise pilots are operating. At that point, AGA triggers a strictly time-boxed $1.5 million safe round. The target investor is not a generalist chasing AI exposure. The target is smart money. Technical angles and niche venture pods that understand B2B logistics, AWS architecture, and strategic enterprise access are what we're looking for. The future marketing horizon is to make the marketing function itself agentic. Within 24 months, the plan is to deploy a multi-agent control plane. One agent monitors global supply chain APIs and detects events such as port strikes or disruptions. Another agent identifies which target accounts are likely affected and drafts a technical brief showing how AGA could route around the bottleneck. The founder approves the message before it goes out. In parallel, AGA can open source a subset of its AWS orchestration, creating a developer-led funnel. Users who hit scaling limits can then graduate into the enterprise tier. So this slide explains why I am essential to the strategy. In this market, a generic sales motion isn't enough. Enterprise operators need to believe the person across the table understands the system being replaced. The proposal points to a Master of Science in Software Engineering, AWS Cloud credentials, solutions architect work, Apple experience, and a track record of building automated platforms. That supports the core sales advantage. When a VP of supply chain asks how the architecture actually works, I can move to the whiteboard, map the step functions, identify the latency, and explain the code path. We are not looking for capital that pushes the company into premature, unfocused growth. The most valuable investor is one who can help unlock enterprise pilots and give access to the right operators. After 3 or 4 pilots validate the cost curve and reliability, the company can raise the $1.5 million safe from a position of strength. The final message is that AGA is not simply building another AI tool. It is building the autonomous infrastructure layer that can replace slow linear consulting workflows with explainable, governed, cloud-native agents. Thank you.